Titanic was built in 1,200 days, but why did it sink in just 3 hours? April 10, 1912, this was the day when the world's largest and most expensive ship, Titanic, was all set to begin its first journey. The Atlantic Ocean was very calm that day, and there was also no chance of an ocean storm. 1,500 passengers were also on board the ship, and thousands of people stood at the dock to watch the Titanic's first journey. Neither the passengers, nor the people on the dock, and nor the Titanic crew knew that the ship, which was going to leave shortly, had 6 such mistakes been made while making it, which will be going to make the ship a victim of a big accident. Welcome back, guys, to ThinkUp. Today you will know about the Titanic, the most expensive, most luxurious, and most powerful ship of that time. It's 6 such mistakes, which if it was not committed, then maybe today, the Titanic was not famous because of its crash, but because of its success. After all, what were those 6 mistakes that even Captain Edward Smith of Titanic, who had 40 years of experience, didn't see it? Leave the captain's 40 years of experience, these mistakes were not even noticed by the Titanic operating company, the White Star Line, which had the experience of operating 107 ships. And even these mistakes were not noticed by Titanic Manufacturing Company, Harland and Wolff, who had manufactured more than 500 ships before the Titanic. The construction of the Titanic began in 1907, and the ship was prepared after about 3 years, with the hard work of 2,000 workers. Now the ship was completely ready, but the phase of testing it was yet to come. The trust of the constructor of Titanic increased when the Titanic did its first test run successfully. As soon as it passed the test, it was marketed in newspapers all around the world, with the headline, "Unsinkable Titanic." The first journey of the Titanic was to start from Hampton City of England on April 10, 1912, and its destination was New York City of America. The cost of traveling in the economy portion of the Titanic was $30, and traveling in first class was $150, which would be about $4,250 in today's time. Due to this marketing, all the tickets were booked one after the other, and finally, the day has come when the Titanic was about to start its first journey. Mistake number 1. At 12 o'clock in the afternoon, Titanic started its first journey. While the mistakes of Titanic started coming to the fore, Captain Smith had received a deadline from the owner to reach New York in any case by April 17th, which means in just 7 days. For this reason, the captain kept the speed of the ship very fast from the beginning, and this was the first mistake of Titanic. Captain Smith had to reach New York as soon as possible due to the instructions and pressure given by the owner, because it was the first journey of the Titanic, and if they didn't reach New York in time, then the Titanic's reputation will suffer a lot. Any vehicle in the world, be it a machine or a ship, they have many operating procedures, in which speed limits are also part of these procedures, and that part was violated at the beginning of the Titanic's journey. Shortly after, the ship left Southampton port so far behind that now far away nothing was visible except the blue sea. Mistake number 2. Now 3 days had passed since the Titanic was moving, except for brief stops in France and Ireland. The Titanic continued to move towards New York for the last 72 hours. It was the evening of April 14, 1912. There was silence and mist all over the ocean, due to which visibility was reduced. At the same night, another ship which was only a few hours ahead of the Titanic, its captain warned the Titanic through wireless about floating icebergs in the ocean. Experts believe that these warnings were given at least 6 times, but due to the negligence of the wireless operators, they missed the most important warnings. It was probably a normal thing for them, but this was the second mistake of the operators of Titanic. because the Titanic was the first luxurious ship of that time, and many VIPs were also present on it, so most of the Titanic staff was busy in the service of the first-class passengers. If these warnings were taken seriously, then the whole scene ahead would have been different. Mistake number 3. The speed of the ship was also high, and the most important warnings were also missed by them. Titanic was now moving rapidly in the range of the iceberg, but still, Titanic could be saved from the accident, because the ship's guards were alert that they would immediately warn the captain as soon as they saw the iceberg from afar. But they did not have one thing to see from afar, and that thing was binoculars. Yes, the guards were alert, but they could not see the iceberg from a distance due to lack of binoculars, and this was the third mistake of the Titanic. Captain Smith got the news of the iceberg when the ship's guards reported that the iceberg, the size of a football field, is in front of the ship. But now it was too late, because the iceberg came too close. Mistake number 4. Because ships often have to face such icebergs in the Atlantic Ocean, which can be handled easily by big ships, perhaps Captain Smith thought the same. As soon as the news of the iceberg was received, Captain Smith ordered the ship's engines to be stopped, as well as ordered to change the direction of the Titanic. Captain Smith tried his best to avoid the iceberg, but the distance was too short that doing anything proved to be useless. Iceberg had now collided with the Titanic, but there was still a lot of hope for the survival of the Titanic. It was hoped that the iceberg might not damage the body of the ship, or else the iceberg would break itself as soon as it collided with the ship, and it would probably have been the same if Titanic's fourth mistake had not shown its work. Experts believe that the rivets on the Titanic's body were made of cast iron, not steel. The job of these rivets is to hold large pieces of iron together, but cast iron is softer than steel. This is the reason why the rivets of the place where the iceberg collided with the Titanic's body were open due to pressure. Then the same thing happened that Captain Smith feared. Mistake number 5. The Titanic had collided with an iceberg as big as a football field, and now the bottom of the ship had begun to fill with water. This dangerous disaster had alerted the entire staff and passengers, as well as the Titanic's owner, Joseph Bruce, who was on the ship. Of course, water had started filling in Titanic, but there was still hope for the survival of Titanic, because the Titanic was designed in such a way that even if its 3 floors were filled with water, it still could not sink. But the bad luck of this ship was that, after crossing the 3 floors, water had now reached the 4th floor. Now the matter was out of hand. The Titanic was slowly sinking into the ocean, and now it was time to save the lives of the passengers in it, without worrying about the ship. Captain Smith issued an emergency alert over the radio until someone came to help. A plan was made to shift the passengers to lifeboats, but on this occasion, the 5th mistake showed its work. The ship had space for a total of 32 lifeboats, but due to laziness, only 20 boats were kept. Passengers were 1,500, and boats were only 20. Mistake number 6. There was chaos everywhere, and everyone wanted to board those few boats. At 12:45 a.m., the first emergency boat landed in ocean, but the 6th mistake happened here. In the state of chaos, the boats were dropped into the ocean without filling them completely, in which preference was given to most of the first-class passengers. Those who were rich were seated first. If more passengers were accommodated in the boats, then less human life would have been lost. Now the ship was sinking rapidly in the ocean. At 2:18 a.m., all the lights of the Titanic were extinguished due to a short circuit. In the very next moment, the ship was broken into 2 parts, and it took 2 hours and 40 minutes to sink completely inside the ocean. And in this way, 1,500 people drowned in the cold water of the Atlantic Ocean and died. And at that time, the temperature of the water was -2 degrees centigrade, which means that even if the passenger jumped in this cold water, there was no chance of survival. because a person cannot survive for more than 30 minutes in such low temperature. It is said that the number of people who died was much more than 1,500. Because of the people who were familiar with the ship's crew, many of them had boarded the ship without a ticket. Most of the people who survived were children and women. On the other hand, Captain Smith was the one who spent all the time saving lives. He was the last man who jumped from the sinking ship. I hope you liked this video. What's your thoughts about this video? Tell me in comment section, and don't forget to subscribe this channel, and I will meet you in next amazing video.